Hi everyone. I did a presentation called Rebooting the Retailer-Vendor Relationship for eTail West Connect recently, and unfortunately it wasn't videoed. So, since it was really well received, I thought I'd do a voiceover version so I could share it here with you. We're going to take a little walk down memory lane, and then I will foretell a future state of retail where I'm going to let you choose the ending based on how strong you like your medicine. Who remembers when the first batch of .com pure plays emerged on the scene? Who remembers how eager and ambitious they were, how unique their concepts were, and how shiny and new they all were? Remember how excited a handful of customers were about online shopping, and the majority just didn't trust it at all? Yet traditional retailers and their vendor partners weren't the least bit threatened by these retail newbies, because they had this long-standing relationship that made it incredibly hard for the pure plays to secure the big brands. Vendor partners didn't want to take a risk, so many unknowns, and retailers had a preference for vendors with limited distribution and weren't exactly shy about making that known. So the vendors stayed put at the cool table where it was safe. The status quo was untouched. The pure plays were alienated and were forced to sit alone at the geek table. We're going to call this first phase, "You Can't Sit With Us," and note it as mistake number 1 in alienating the pure plays and forcing them to bow out or adapt without the big brands. During this Can't Sit With Us phase, superstars like Amazon and eBay learned to adapt and later thrive without the household brands. Not all of the early pure plays were so fortunate, as you know, and with limited awareness and no household brand support, many bowed out. Who remembers when the retailers then started launching their own websites? Macy's, Sears, Neiman's, Nordstrom. Made sense. It was just another channel where they continued to sell direct to the consumer. More business for them, more business for their vendor partners. Win-win for those long-standing relationships, right? The retailers used the stability and profitability of their brick-and-mortar businesses to fuel the web, a luxury those early pure plays did not have, the backing of an established parent with deep pockets. The day those sites went live was the most exciting endeavor for the hardworking retailer teams behind them. They were recreating the wheel. Suddenly the customer could shop their favorite stores from their home or desk. We were all amazed at the things people were willing to buy without actually touching them. There were dreams of the web being the most lucrative profit center. We're going to call this second phase We're Webified, and we would all later learn that the web is in fact not a profit center. During this We're Webified phase, superstars Neiman's and Nordstrom invested heavily and stood out as early innovators. Others had a tougher go of it, trying to sort out organizational hierarchy challenges. So now, who remembers working for a brand and your own brand launching a website and selling direct to the consumer for the first time? Suddenly you have a store with no buyer, no planner, no customer-facing customer service staff, a warehouse that's not entirely equipped to handle individual pick and pack, let alone an end consumer return process. That store is open 24/7, and your company is structured for Monday through Friday 9 to 5. But orders are coming in, and the customer wants to talk directly to you, the brand. It was fun learning new skills on demand, right? Who remembers working for a retailer and finding out your biggest vendor partner is now going to sell direct to your consumer, just one click away from your website? Just one click. You can't stop them. You understand why this makes sense for them and for the customer. Your biggest partners just now became your biggest competition. Crap. Things got a little tense and a little confusing for everyone. We're going to call this third phase, Look What We Can Do. And in retrospect, it's clear this is the day the retailer-vendor business model broke. During this Look What We Can Do phase, superstars like Clinique and Tommy Hilfiger captured market share away from their retail partners with ambitious ventures into e-commerce. So to try to hold on to that rock-solid relationship that kept the pure plays at bay, concessions were made to not compete very directly with each other. Vendor partners would appease their retailers by not running sale events on their websites. They would offer up exclusive products to protect the retailer business, all at the expense of their own direct success for fear of losing their distribution. Vendors would insist on retailers syndicating in their brand website to control the look, feel, and experience. So what happened? The customer was confused. Why is the same thing such different prices? Why can't I buy what I want where I want online, but I can in store? All of a sudden, things were on shaky ground. Vendor investments were made into e-commerce, but their hands were tied with capturing the full potential of this new exciting channel. These roadblocks to growth were probably helpful in hindsight for the vendor's learning curve of going direct to consumer. However, these online ventures had to be profitable, so this appeasement approach was doomed from the beginning. While retailers and vendor partners were busy with this conflicting dance of how to protect their business from each other while also growing their business together, the established vertical retailers of the world were making their indelible marks in e-commerce. The Gap, Victoria's Secret, Land's End, LL Bean, to name a few. Vertical retailers can control their own destiny because they weren't betrothed to anyone. They could run as few or as many sale events as they wanted, keep all the profit, and not have to appease anyone's ruffled feathers. They could focus on driving their business instead of managing bruised relationships. The online business of the vertical retailer has thrived and in turn driven their brick-and-mortar business, as they are the only ones that could successfully execute a 360-degree omni-channel experience for the customer. They owned the brand and the entire experience. They owned the bricks and the clicks. They connected the dots seamlessly for the customer from the first day. There was no time lost in deciding if one division was going to support the other. No time lost debating over if the .com logo should be tagged on the advertising or not. No fear of .com cannibalizing brick and mortar. Time was spent wisely on connecting with the customer. They then paved the way for the new brands to launch only online as the customer became accustomed to enjoying direct relationships with their brands. Double crap. We're going to call this fourth phase vertically challenged toxic tango. During this vertically challenged toxic tango phase, superstars like Gap and Victoria's Secret took center stage with explosive growth. With the tremendous success of the vertical retailer online as role models, the new breed of pure plays emerged. These new pure plays are in it for good this time. They see the rocky retailer-vendor partnerships. They see how business protection measures have only increased today, with retailers ramping up on private label and undercutting the vendor pricing to migrate customers to their own brands. Using the brand name vendor goods as leverage to get the customer in the door or to the website. On the other hand, they see vendors who've been selling direct for some time now, online, now opening stores offline to expand their reach, migrating the customer directly to them, bypassing the retailers altogether. They see the customer in this ongoing tug of war between retailer and vendor, and frankly, the relationships are ripe for attack. So what does the hungry pure play do differently this time around? Well, they paint a picture of needless retailer markup and dishonest nature of overcharging the customer. They price their comparable goods at half of what retailers are charging, which in effect proves their message. Anyone familiar with Everlane? They were a luxury apparel pure play started in 2010, up until they opened 2 brick-and-mortar stores recently. Did you know they outright state how much it costs to produce their products and compare their pricing to traditional retail pricing? They paint a picture of transparency on their part and call out the retailers for overcharging and needless markup. According to SimilarWeb, they get about 3 million visitors a month to their website, which is about 10% of what Nordstrom or Gap get. Not too bad. How about Orate? Anyone know them? They're a vertical jewelry retailer. They call out both traditional retailers for needless markup as well as high-end jewelry brands for unethical practices. They paint a very dreary picture for both retailers and existing brands in general. How about Tecovas Boots? They're a pure play that hand makes cowboy boots and leather accessories. They also tell the story of unnecessary markup from traditional retailers and their own honest pricing. They paint a picture of dishonesty in traditional retail. These certainly are not the only pure plays spreading the anti-retailer sentiment. Eliminating the middleman to offer lower prices and raising trust issues for the customer is on the rise. We're going to call this fifth phase Revenge of the Nerds. It's payback time. The anti-retailer sentiment is intended to do damage. During this Revenge of the Nerds phase, the standout superstar is Everlane, and with more of a general anti-markup sentiment and less of an anti-retailer sentiment, we have Allbirds as well. This is the part where I've come to the turning point in my story, and I ask you how strong you want your medicine. Are we going to take the teeny tiny pill, or the one that seems way too hard to swallow? Let's all hold hands and do it together. Let's take the big pill. Here we go. In the future state we are headed towards, the retailer-vendor relationship begins to evolve. Anti-retailer sentiment grows. Retailers are most definitely the bad guys in the customer's mind, charging the dishonest markup for all these years. They fight to stay relevant and in the game by turning up production on private label goods to compete on price and be transparent like the vertical retailers. In many cases, it's just too late for that. The trust is gone with the customer, and more household big box names will exit, become extinct. In the few cases where a private label could be a shot in the arm for the retailer, it is, however, the end of times for the vendor goods, as there is no way to compete and continue to pass on a markup, so the business model is broken. Goods collect dust as the vendors await RTV labels and their points of distribution dry up, leaving them no choice but to turn up their own direct-to-consumer efforts and slash their prices. It's too late for many who have not yet expanded to direct-to-consumer. The retailers left, then with only their private labels, can't keep up with filling their stores as the vendors disappear. So that shot in the arm is truly short-lived. All is lost, and the face of retail is changed forever. Neither big box retailer nor vendor partner remain. The pure plays and vertical retailers will surely inherit the marketplace in a new direct-to-consumer only world. Retail markup is dead. The business model of the middleman is gone the way of video rental stores and record albums. The end state I am describing we're going to call the final markup. We, the industry, lament the tactical errors made in the past to hold on to a broken business model. Retail now faces some of the same challenges as the music industry. New brands, just like new bands, struggle to get exposure with no deep-pocketed partner to help drive the awareness. They have to rely on gimmicks, founder charisma, and being more ethical than their peers to capture enough attention to survive. Many get lost in the seas of Google and Amazon. The long-tail search terms get longer and longer and longer. Everyone yearns for a simpler time, when they could shop all their favorite brands in one store without spending a weekend trying to click through all the options, be it on Amazon, Zappos, or across hundreds of websites. No one's the real winner here. New brands need exposure. Retailers need an assortment of brands. Malls need big box anchors. And people need efficient online shopping options. The point here, my point, is to inspire those uncomfortable conversations across the table, to find new solutions, to tweak business models and relationships together now. Business models need to be restructured. Alternate revenue streams are needed to remove retailer markup from the P&Ls. Transparency in pricing matters to the customer. Learn from the ones rewriting the landscape, the pure plays, the vertical retailers, and the marketplaces. I, for one, am not ready to see the slate be wiped clean. # Save Macy's, save the world. Thank you, everyone.